crisis report. I'd like to thank everybody last night who noticed just how tired I was. I got a little more mojo tonight, so hopefully I won't be quasi-passing out as I'm reading this. Yeah, was it the 16th? Ah, screw that up. We'll figure that out after. Yeah, I was tired. So, we will switch the 17th for, well, I guess technically, I mean, my God, it's 4 minutes to the 17th? All right, maybe we'll just leave it be. Anyway, yeah. Sports ball, life, side hustles, all kinds of stuff. But I got a nice weekend this weekend, so a little more free time. So I'm probably going to stream a little bit more and get back into the regular mojo. I've been doing all I can. So, you got to come in 6 ways to Sunday. But we're here. So, I'm not going to be long on this. I'm going to get started. So this is your crisis report for January 16th, 2025, at least for another four minutes. But we're going to get started. And here we go. Prime Minister's office, Hamas backs out of understandings and creates a last-minute crisis that prevents an agreement. That's how we started today. There's a lot of back and forth. I still don't think it's going to officially go all the way through, for the record. Hamas is backing away from the explicit understandings reached with the mediators in Israel in last-minute blackmail attempt. Israel will not set a date for a cabinet and government meeting until the mediators announce that Hamas has approved all the details of the agreement. Turns out that the Qatari enemy's declaration of a ceasefire was merely a facade. This is from an Israeli perspective. Underlying disputes remaining unresolved. For instance, Hamas is unwilling to accept Israel's veto on the release of numerous murderers, contrary to the agreement. Moreover, there are disagreements about the terms left from the first phase. When you make a deal with a monstrous terrorist organization, what outcome could you reasonably expect? And they are. You'll see at the end of this. They're saying we have lost the war. Israeli senior official said that in assessing the situation this morning, Prime Minister said that if there's no breakthrough in the coming hours, he will consider returning the Israeli delegation that is in Qatar. And it goes on from there. Egypt violated the peace agreement with Israel and armed the Sinai Peninsula. Aerial photographs revealed that Egypt has deployed hundreds of armored vehicles and dozens of tanks near Rafah, blatant violation of the Camp David Accords. No deal yet. During the night, Hamas began to backtrack on its understandings. Goes on from there. Hamas is backing away from the understandings and creating a last-minute crisis that prevents an agreement. So we woke up and it seemed like this wasn't going to happen. So first and foremost, it doesn't start till Sunday. So we'll see. Israel will not set a date for a cabinet and government. I think everything has been signed and they're good. And so, yeah. So when will we know if there's a deal or not? Only when you hear that the Israeli cabinet is meeting. I believe they have met. I believe they have signed. So yesterday's dirty trick by Qatar. The Biden administration is pushing for this, but knowing the key elements were not agreed upon by Hamas, Qataris announced the deal in an attempt to pressure Israel into backing off and conceding critical issues like the Israeli veto on the names of heavy terrorists to be released and the presence of IDF troops on the Philadelphia corridor during Phase 1. Dirty trick didn't work, and the Israeli Prime Minister did not back down. There is no deal as of now, but there is a deal now. So, did they back down? Kind of looks like they did. Hamas and Iran aren't afraid of Trump. Murderous ideology isn't swayed by Western countries. They know well that reaching a deal is the best way to drag their feet. They know that Trump as a businessman will always prefer a deal over war. I hope there is someone around the president who can make that clear to him. Netanyahu adamant finalizing the details of the agreement. Thus, he firmly opposed Hamas's demand to change the deployment of our forces in the Philadelphia axis, and thus he is standing firm against other demands by Hamas, which deviate from the understandings reached during the negotiations. Prime Minister Netanyahu will not form the cabinet and the government. Ben-Gvir delivered a significant statement. He basically said, this thing goes through, I'm going to GTFO. It appears the cabinet will convene on Saturday, so that's what we're waiting for. Release of the hostages may be postponed until Monday. So supposedly everything is signed and it's waiting, okay? That's what I know of right now. We'll see. Keir Starmer, UK, made an unannounced visit on Ukraine January 16, 2025 to sign a 100-year partnership agreement with President Volodymyr Zelensky. The landmark agreement aims to enhance cooperation in defense, science, energy, trade, reinforcing England's support for Ukraine amid concerns that future U.S. assistance would be nil after the old orange man bad gets in. Starmer emphasized that the partnership signifies a commitment to Ukraine's security and prosperity for generations. Visit Mark Starmer's first to Ukraine since he became prime minister. Germany is limiting intelligence cooperation with Austria due to the fact, they've got a new far-right party that wants, check this out. This is so evil. They want freedom. God. Far right. Austria's far-right Freedom Party could strain ties with Western allies, especially concerning Russian espionage activities. German officials emphasized that the intelligence sharing must be conducted cautiously to mitigate security risks, reflecting a broader unease about Austria's political direction and its implications for European security collab. Donald Tusk, not Trump, Prime Minister of Poland, accused Russia of planning terror worldwide. He emphasized the threat posed by potential attacks, highlighted the need for international co-op to address the security challenges. His remarks were ongoing concerns regarding the Russia and their implications for global aviation safety, thinking they're going to bring down planes. Putin has signed a decree calling up reserve citizens for scheduled military training in 2025. This is kind of big. Initiative is part of Russia's efforts to enhance its military readiness amid ongoing conflicts, security challenges. The decree emphasizes the importance of training and mobilizing reserve forces, reflecting Russia's strategic force in maintaining a capable military presence. U.S., Hungary, Slovakia, Germany opposed Ukraine's NATO membership last year. Ukraine spent nearly $100 billion on defense, $40 billion from its own budget, $35 from the U.S., $25 from Europe. I know he's got the art of the deal mastered. Donald Trump reiterated his threat to impose high tariffs on Denmark if Copenhagen does not relinquish its claim over Greenland. NATO Secretary General Rutte urged the alliance to prepare for a major war. Wonderful. Our future security is at stake. Russia, along with China, North Korea and Iran, working to destabilize democracies and freedoms. Main threats: terror, nuclear proliferation, disinformation, climate change. There are 4 to 5 years to overcome these challenges. Prevent war. You need to be ready for it, and it's time to think like in wartime. Yeah? Lithuania ready to send troops to Ukraine. Lithuania will deploy its army to Ukraine together with other Western countries if Kiev requests it. Foreign Minister Kęstutis Budrys said. He said Vilnius would first discuss it with its allies and partners to determine the format. As rumors sparking of a ground invasion from Belarus into Ukraine. Main road leading from Ukraine to Belarus has been blocked with stones. French troops recently added an exercise with the aim of preventing an attack from Belarus into the Ukrainian capital of Kiev. Belarus faces the risk of being annexed by Russia. Constitutional preparations for the State of the Union have already reached a turning point. The upcoming presidential elections in Belarus could be used by Moscow for overthrow of Minsk. More details on the current situation. International Study of War. That is a think tank. It is sponsored by the Clintons in some way, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong. Secretary of State nominee Marco Rubio said there is no way Russia takes all of Ukraine. Ukrainians are too brave, fight too hard. It's also unrealistic. The Ukraine will push Russians back to where they were on the eve of the invasion. This conflict needs to end. International peacekeeping mission in Ukraine. 3 possible scenarios for the deployment of British troops in Ukraine, according to the Telegraph. British military is establishing control points for fighter jets, attack helicopters along the buffer zone. Rapid reaction forces are positioned in the near, and third-tier armor is ready to repel a possible attack. British are creating a defensive border around Kiev, which will allow the Ukrainian armed forces to concentrate their efforts on containing the Russian army. Instructors from Britain can conduct training for the Ukrainian armed forces in the west of Ukraine and air defense from Poland, providing protection. Russia, intercontinental ballistic missile launch sites can reach the U.S. In addition, Greenland, who can be seen as strategic buffer zone if the Pentagon is deploying AD systems. That is the theory, that they want Greenland because they think it would be a buffer for or air defense systems. Excuse me. Ukraine, Russia attacked Kiev today, right during negotiations between British Prime Minister Starmer and Zelensky. The work of air defense units could be heard in the Mariinsky Palace, according to The Guardian. Drone was visible, Russian drone, and audible over the palace, not far from the president's office. Russia, all reservists will be called up 2025 to undergo military training in the armed forces of the Russian Federation. Troops of the National Guard of the Russian Federation, the rescue military formations, according to Putin's decree. I actually thought this was one of the bigger stories of the day. When you're calling up all your reserves, there's something going on. China and Russia, high representatives of the Russian Ministry of Defense returned from a trip to Beijing back to Moscow to represent the current views of the Chinese Ministry of Defense. Unusual because not officially announced. Pan-European Union President Karl Vitaly von Habsburg calls for the decolonization of Russia as a new political goal for the security of Europe. The Habsburgers are known for their connections to the Freemans and the Vatican, so I don't know. It's conspiracy, man. Israeli government collapsed, Security Minister Ben-Gvir announced. We will resign from the government immediately after the ceasefire begins, and if the war resumes, we will return to it. Latest Ukrainian air and sea campaign is absolutely devastating for Putin. While Russians are bleeding to death, the tiny villages in the Donbas, Ukraine is targeting economic neurocenters of Russia's economy. Especially the frequency of successful Ukrainian strikes is impressive. Basically, every night, another Russian facility in the oil and gas industry goes up in flames. We have even indications that Russia is running out of firefighting material. It is a crisis on steroids. Ceasefire and hostage deal has been delayed as Benjamin Netanyahu accused Hamas of violating parts of the agreement amid reports that he is frustrated with Donald Trump for pressuring him into accepting the terms. Large wildfires broken out in Cape Town, South Africa. Pope Francis suffered a fall at the Vatican, injuring his right arm, now using a sling to support it. Nancy Pelosi will not be attending Donald Trump's inauguration because she's a petty bitch. President Donald Trump has appointed Mel Gibson and Sylvester Stallone special ambassadors to Hollywood, vowing to usher in a new golden age and restore Hollywood from darkness to light. You mean like they're going to make movies about, love and heroism and stuff like that, not about someone that likes to love strange things? RFK Jr. says Donald Trump wants a revolution and will get it by bringing unprecedented change in the government. DeSantis picks Florida AG Ashley Moody to replace Senator Marco Rubio in the Senate. Jenner, property giant Vank's CEO, was taken away by police. There's some crazy stuff going on in China's financial sector. Keep an eye. Yemen's rebel chief says Israel failed miserably in Gaza. Yes, they're starting to take it in the chin by the resistance who say Israel failed, they have lost the war. Yemen's Houthis threaten more attacks on if Israel does not observe the ceasefire. Ben-Gvir says he will pull his Otzma Yehudit party out of the government if the Gaza ceasefire deal is approved by the cabinet tomorrow. Ben-Gvir said that after joining the opposition, he will not support the left-wing vote to topple the government and will immediately return to the coalition if and when Gaza war resumes. Fellow religious right-winger Bezalel Smotrich warned that his religious Zionism faction will quit the government if the war against Hamas is not resumed after the first phase of the ceasefire, 42 days. Polls show Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is also bleeding support among Likud voters over the ceasefire deal, which leaves Hamas in control of Gaza and guarantees the release of some of the hostages. Little doubt that Israel was coerced into the ceasefire deal by both the outgoing and incoming administrations of America. Seeking foreign policy win, they can argue amongst themselves who deserves more credit. Also unlikely that Trump, experienced businessman and master negotiator, will take such a deal if he were in Israel's shoes. Israel is giving more than it is receiving. Trump would never agree to give more than he received, certainly not from a beaten opponent. Which again begs the question, why is the world's most powerful nation incapable of coercing Hamas to make the greater compromise or to surrender, which is what the outcome really should be? Good question. Same time, Israel is relatively confident that the ceasefire is violated by Hamas. Almost certainly will be. The incoming Trump administration will back a resumption of Israeli military operations, whereas Biden would almost certainly would not. Preparation for President Trump's inauguration. Department of Energy helicopters are conducting flights over Washington, D.C. to scan for nuclear irregularities. Wonderful. Utilizing advanced technology, the pilots are flying in grid-light patterns to identify any radiological anomalies. Operation aims to ensure security and readiness against potential nuclear threats during the high-profile event, reflecting heightened vigilance in monitoring for any unusual radiological activity in the area. Ukraine's Air Force faces a significant manpower crisis described as an absurd phenomenon which threatens its operational effectiveness. Ongoing conflict has led to high personal losses and challenges in recruitment, impacting the ability to maintain and operate aircraft. Experienced pilots and ground crew are increasingly strained. Air Force struggles to sustain its defense capabilities against Russian aggression. Manpower issue raises concerns about Ukraine's long-term air defense strategy and its ability to respond effectively in an ongoing war. Walla News, Guy Elster reports that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has promised his ministers that the war in Gaza would resume after the first phase of the deal, according to Israeli media reports, despite U.S. statements that the deal would lead to a permanent truce. I think it's going to go option A, not option B. Mel Gibson on the destructive Los Angeles wildfires, quote, "It looked like Dresden after Bomber Harris got through with it." DJT just announced on Truth Social that he is appointing John Voight, Mel Gibson, and Sylvester Stallone special ambassadors to Hollywood. Honored to introduce these three fine men to be special ambassadors and create a great but very troubled place, Hollywood, California. They will serve as special envoys to me for the purpose of bringing Hollywood, which has lost much business over the last 4 years to foreign countries, back bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. He is true. It's all going overseas. Bollywood, China. Three big, very talented people would be my eyes, ears, and I will get done what they suggest. It will again be like the United States of America itself, the golden age of Hollywood. I think we just want America to be America again. Israeli Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir. The deal will eliminate the achievements we have made for the Jewish state, and will not lead to the release of all prisoners. During student protests in Serbia, a man attacked a protester using his car. The man was arrested and is being investigated for attempted murder. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is heading a Mar-a-Lago for a meeting with Trump. Axios reports that Gaza ceasefire hostage deal has been officially signed in Doha. OMG. De jure. Official. Israel's security cabinet is set to meet Friday morning to vote on the deal, followed by a full government plenary vote on Saturday night. Ceasefire and hostage release are anticipated to take place on Monday. U.S. officials said that on Wednesday night, after the deal was announced, there was a disagreement about the final list of Palestinian prisoners who are supposed to be released as part of the deal. Hamas demanded a swap. Several names on the list for military leaders of the militant group who are serving multiple life sentences for planning and orchestrating different crazy stuff, Israeli officials said. Israel had earlier used the veto. It is part of the deal to block their release, but Hamas brought them up again as a new demand in the negotiations. California residents are ignoring evacuation orders to safeguard their property as wildfires rage in Los Angeles area. Many are also checking on their neighbors' homes, with some taking up arms to deter potential looters. It's what we covered over on PrepperNow. Yeah, you're gonna have to do it yourself. Democrats have introduced a bill to abolish the Electoral College, in effect to democracy. It's a threat to democracy, because Lord knows we want New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami, Denver, Baltimore, and Detroit to make all of the decisions for the rest of the country. Oh, what's that? They're not going to travel to freaking Iowa or Wyoming or New Mexico? No, they're not. They're going to go to the cities. Why? Because they have this thing called population. The Electoral College is done on purpose so the people out in the hinterlands don't have to get their weapons and come to town. Do you get it? U.S. intelligence reports that Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's computer was hacked by Chinese state-sponsored actors, resulting in the theft of unclassified files. Russia and Iran signed an unprecedented 20-year strategic partnership agreement in Moscow tomorrow. The agreement contains 47 articles dealing with a wide range of areas, including military cooperation, economic ties, technology, exchange, cyber security cooperation, nuclear energy collaboration, regional trade, payment systems, integration, and more. Iran and Russia are now tied at the hip. According to officials familiar with the agreement, it includes several joint defense and military initiatives. For example, the agreement includes a clause that prohibits both signatories from supporting or assisting aggressors against each other in a war. Biden administration has stated that it will leave the resolution of the TikTok ban to incoming President Donald Trump, reported by ABC. Still possible that TikTok may proactively choose to shut down for U.S. users on Sunday, January 19th. China is interested in buying crisis-stricken German car factories, especially Volkswagen, according to Reuters. Great job, Germany. Global banks will cut as many as 200,000 jobs in the next 3 to 5 years if artificial intelligence encroaches on it. On tasks currently carried out by human workers, according to Bloomberg Intelligence. They're gone. Minister of National Security of Israel, Ben-Gvir, admitted that Israel has lost the war. From what I saw, the celebrations in Gaza, we know which party submitted. If the deal is approved, I will resign from the government. FBI has closed its Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Oh, no, dang. Trump plans to designate cryptocurrency as a national priority. After the November election, Biden privately mused about the idea of pardoning Trump as a magnanimous move, according to a person directly familiar with his comments, though it's not clear he seriously considered it. Wouldn't that be weird? China is experiencing a complete financial crash. China's 10-year government bonds, 1.65%. Their policy overnight rate sits at 1.5. The real estate collapse continues. Bank 2025 bonds collapsing this week. And overnight rate just spiked to 16%. And that is a complete disaster for Xi Jinping. U.S. is ready to tighten sanctions against Russian oil companies and provide U.S. Treasury Secretary in the Trump administration, Scott Bessent, part of the Trump strategy to end the war in Ukraine. I 100% support strengthening sanctions, especially on Russian oil companies, to a level that will bring Russia to negotiations, Bessent said during a congressional hearing. Up to 6,000 troops have been mobilized in Washington, D.C. ahead of Trump's inauguration on January 20th. So, you got helicopters sniffing for nukes, 6,000 troops in. Secretaries of major things like our Treasury are being hacked by the Chinese. Russians signed a peace pact or a mutual assistance pact with Iran. Everything is just setting up wonderful for Trump. Orange man bad. Good luck, buddy. They have left you with one heck of a country. All is well. So, yeah. He's got a big to-do list. And I hope he does it. Friends, that's your Crisis Report. Hit that like button. Do the subscribe thing. Darken out the bell. And, yeah. Please consider joining as a member, like Winning Streak. Consider maybe joining me on Subscribestar and Locals. I haven't pimped those out in a while. I've really not had a lot of time to get to them in the last couple days. I do put out normally about 10 posts a day there of different stuff. It's just another way for you to support. That's $3 a month. It does help. I have a nice, solid group there. I've got a solid group on Locals as well. And my apologies, this last 48 hours has been about as rough. I mean, it's 12:22 in the freaking morning. I'm doing the Crisis Report. That should tell you everything you need to know. But guess what, folks? I always get it done. Even when I'm half asleep like last night. So, I made a mention to someone who said, oh, you just read news. You just read. I do a little more than that. There's some analysis, too. And I'm going to tell you right now, this hostage deal or whatever, if it goes through, and I doubt it will, I think this thing is going to crap the bed by Sunday. If it goes through. The whole purpose is to get those people back out of harm's way, and then, let me tell you something, the frickin' hammer is going to drop. And that might include Iran. Why do you think they're signing a mutual assistance deal with Russia today? So hold on to your butts, okay? It's coming. It's coming. Hit that like button. Do the subscribe thing. Darken out the bell. Come on back for more of the most comprehensive news on YouTube. That's your Crisis Report. Friends, God bless. And we will see you on the next one.